In your job, and I know you left in 2015, but Ned, I'll ask you the same question. As we have said before this, and you've referenced earlier in the chat now, it's not the first time a foreign power has interfered in different ways, right? China in 2008, so on. But the difference here is the weaponization of the information. But in the past, have you seen China or Russia or North Korea or Iran, that the key cyber players lay the groundwork for voter interference? I don't know, blow up some registration lists so people, when they show up, they're not there. Have you seen evidence of that?
So my job was in the Department of Defense, so I would not have necessarily come across that unless it was in some bigger, more comprehensive report. But I think the point that I would like to make is that the Russian government is opportunistic. Putin is opportunistic, and he's a risk taker. So to answer your question about, do you think that Putin would actually go further and get into the roles? Yes, if he sees the opportunity and he sees that there will be no price to pay, that we're not standing up to him, then he will. Then he might. I shouldn't say he will. I don't know for sure. But he would assess the risk as being relatively low and the gain being as relatively high. And this is across the board. It's not just in the cyber realm. In the Department of Defense, since actually 2012, I mean, we've been talking, at least among ourselves in the government, about deterring Russia. Because if you don't stand up to this Kremlin, then they won't stop. I mean, the first invasion and occupation of one of their neighboring countries happened in 2008. And they're likely to, they repeated it, of course, we know, in Ukraine, in 2 different parts of eastern Ukraine, and illegally annexed, illegally changed the borders by force, by military force, first time since World War II. And there's a whole litany of other things. I have like 12 things on a list in my pocket that I could read to you. But the reason that they kept doing these things, and to this day, they're still moving the border in Georgia, and again, I can make another list of 12 things they've done since Trump came into office. They don't stop because the price is not high enough. So we have to deter them in the cyber realm, in the conventional military realm, in the asymmetric military, unconventional realm, in the information space. And some of it will involve the private sector. Some of it will involve increasing transparency and tightening up our laws, setting up task forces for electoral reform and vigilance in DHS and other places, task force on Russia to look at the dark side interfacing with the white side, if you will, in the financial world, in the cyber criminal world. So that's a long answer.
But you can, to that point, you can argue that the previous administration did not get the make them pay for it balance right either.
I am on the record advocating for us doing more on deterrence, and certainly with regard to the information operation against our election, I was no longer in government, but I believe we should have done more. So to undo those sanctions out of the 4 different buckets of sanctions we have, I think would be appalling, because we actually need to do more.